Welcome back to Bonding. I am your host, Troy Bond, voted top 10 comics to not watch in 2022.
It's bad energy.
I never get on the list every year. I think I'm going to get it. Who joined me is, as always, is Torey Cole, voted top 20 comics to not watch.
Okay.
In 2022.
Thank
and
you so much.
The hardest
That's
working
for everybody.
comic of all three of us, Mr. Jared Turbo Waters.
Mr.
Coming
Waters,
down.
welcome.
I know this is a big ass to get you. This is a big gap.
What is
Every time I see
there?
Jared, he wears my initials on his hat.
A return guest too, right?
Return? No.
I thought you had him on a long time ago.
No.
You've never had him on.
No.
Oh.
I've been trying to get on this podcast.
Well, look at
It's
that.
another
For
black
some
eye
reason,
for you.
I thought there was a time before me, which is even weird to think about. But
No, there was no podcast before you.
Okay,
I've been trying to
good.
on this podcast for maybe like years, trying to
I
get
know.
German mustard. I've been trying to trying to get gift bags.
That's what we get from we don't get paid, but we get paid in
Love.
Gifts.
Gifts. I got a tube of mustard.
I got a tube of mustard
You
myself.
got a tube of mustard. Her Tori's is right here in the
Yeah.
fridge. I still have the beer. the
I meet a
German
lot of
beer.
you guys' fans after the shows.
Yeah.
I do.
You lived in Germany for a while, right?
I lived in this place called Knieberglan, and my dad worked in Gallien. My mom worked in Gillenkirchen, so we're like on the cups of Germany and the Netherlands. So we'd always go back and forth.
Cool.
Because you were a military kid, right? So like
My dad
how
was.
many different places did you grow up in? Would you move around a lot, or you
Moved
stayed?
around a lot. Like every 3 to 4 years, we were gone. So lived in Tokyo for 4 years. Lived in the Netherlands for that was the longest place I ever lived in the Netherlands, like 8 years. And then we would just go to different places. So like my dad was always just bounce around, move, see a culture, experience something new. Because he's a country boy from North Carolina. So he was always big on us learning new aspects and meeting different people.
That's so cool.
So yeah.
Was that easy for you to adjust to as a kid, or do you get used to it after a while?
Once you get into your teens, you get used to it. It wasn't easy in the beginning because like people would just F with you all the time because you're always a new kid.
Right.
And I remember I lived in North Carolina, and I remember that was my grandmother's finally there, and I was like, these kids just give me a hard time. She's like, you just got to go up and punch them in the mouth. That was her advice. That was her advice. And I was like, isn't this guy supposed to be like your cousin? And she goes, yeah. I was like, he's the kid effing with me at school the whole time. So I'm about to call his grandma right now.
Yeah, go punch him in the mouth.
She
He's
called
got
his
weak teeth.
grandma. But it was like,
punched her grandma in the mouth.
we were like military, we're like
Yeah.
upper middle class. But my dad remembers when he wasn't upper class, but we don't remember that. So like when we got in there, like when we finally went to like a place where there was no base, me and my brother were just like, we lived in like the coast, like in like the burbs, and the people at my school didn't, so they were trying to like knock us for like living like that. So we weren't accepted by them, they weren't accepted by them, so it was just me and him the
Your
whole
brother?
time. My brother.
Oh,
We're
so
like close,
Your
like
best friend.
16 months apart. Yeah, he was in my wedding.
Okay. So no.
Yeah, that's my bro. That's my man.
Yeah,
like,
he was a filler. He wasn't supposed to be in my
Yeah, I was
wedding.
like, I
he's like the
guess.
reason why I moved to New York. He's like pretty much everything in life. He's like my fullback in life. He's like always played the way and showed me where I'm supposed to be going.
He lives here now.
He lives in California,
Oh, okay.
but he was the reason
That's
I
the
met.
reason Jared lives in New York.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like,
all
we work
fully
better
across.
on different coasts.
I remember I told him I want to go to New York, and he goes, "You do?" And he said, "Hold on." He calls me back. His wife, but girlfriend at the time, goes, "Her best friend's moving to New York. You got a roommate. I'm gonna plug you guys together. Give her $1,300. You got yourself a place."
That's
You did that?
He did that within 2 days.
Your brother's
Wow.
a fixer. What does he do?
He writes contracts for like big giant companies, and he is a part owner in the first black bourbon company called Old Hillside Bourbon.
So
Cool.
that's where you got your comedy inspiration from, obviously.
We got it.
Track writing.
I think we got it. My grandfather and my dad. We used to watch Red Fox all the time, like all the time. I remember when it was one of those big giant gateway computers,
Yeah.
and I remember
Were
I
those
got
the one that they had like cow print for
Yes.
some reason? Yeah.
cow print. And when DVDs first came out, I remember my dad had these. They used to like have just TV shows or just full seasons of DVDs.
Yeah.
Remember that? They would just
Yeah.
always just have like seasons.
Are you going to talk about Sanford and Son? I had the Sanford and Son DVDs.
That's what
growing
my
up,
dad.
too.
My dad had the Sanford.
Yeah.
The first season, second. We had every season, but the first season we watched it. I remember me, him, and my brother just sitting there laughing the whole time. Then I just get online. I'm like, I wonder his name is Red Fox, and I just downloaded all of his stuff, every last one of his stuff. I like almost ruins my parents' computer, and like I burnt everything to a CD. I had this giant, those little CD Walkmans.
Yeah.
And I would listen to all of his stand-up, like going to school, everything else. And I would like be in trouble, like quoting his jokes the whole time.
Because Red Fox's stand-up was way different than what you saw in Sanford and Son. I had the same experience where like I started listening to his stand-up, and I was like, I didn't even know what these words meant. Like I had that, and I had Eddie Murphy's Raw. Like once I discovered Eddie's stand-up, I listened to Delirious and Raw back to back at school on a CD. And we did a little like mock talent show in the cafeteria, and I did his Mr. T bit.
Hey,
I
fool.
got sent right to the principal's office.
Hey, Peter.
Fuck around and cut your dick off my butt cheeks. I'm gonna lean over, fuck me in the ass.
Do you have it all in your head right now still?
Yeah,
That's
it's still
that's
there.
amazing.
It's like burnt into you, like
yeah.
memory.
Well, it's like you're a kid, right? How old were you when you're getting into Red Fox? You're like what, 5, 6, 7 years old?
I wasn't downloading it that early, but I maybe like 10. I remember I was in like 5th or 6th grade going to middle school and just snapping at people. Because when people would like always try to blaze me, I would listen to all this stand-up stuff, so I would have something to fire back to.
Yeah.
So I had tons of stuff to fire back to. Whatever was a hot comic. And I remember, just like when you're young, you never know Eddie Murphy does stand-up until you just start researching. I was like, oh, freaky. Oh, I should watch this. I was like, oh, wow. And then I saw Harlem Nights. And then I was like, oh, wow, who's this one? And then I was like, I researched everybody. I was like, oh, they're all comedians.
I remember. That was my moment, too. I was like, the guy from Shrek does stand-up. And, like, my dad grew up in the 80s, and, like, he wanted to be Eddie Murphy. So, like, that was, like, a big time, like, him and I bonding over comedy. Like, Red Fox, Bill Cosby, Eddie, Robin Williams, George Carlin. Like, I was a kid listening to all those albums. Not really understanding what they were talking about, but it's so cool when you connect with a comic like that at age, because you see someone else showing you how they see the world and making it funny too. Like I think Cat Williams was my first introduction to talking about real world topics, making them funny in a way I could understand them at like 9 when Pimp Chronicles Part 1 came out. It's like for some reason I understand what he's talking about.
You find different ways to like connect with like different artists, because I feel like I didn't understand comedy until I got older. Like, I feel like I appreciated Chris Rock more when I got older. But I remember this guy had to explain Richard Pryor's joke to me about, like, the water. I didn't understand it. I was like, why is this so funny? Everybody started laughing. He's like, they talking about their sizes. I was like, oh, wow. It's like, this water cold and deep, too. And I was like, what is so funny about this? And then this old guy explained it to me. I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. Oh. But it takes a while to, like, understand, like, being a kid, you're not going to get the jokes. But then I remember they used to on VH1, they would have like movies that kill. Remember those nights?
Yeah.
They would play Prince. They would play like Purple Rain, or they play the Jacksons movies, like a 6-hour movie.
The American Dream.
American Dreams.
My
I know that
God,
by heart.
That movie's so long.
Like, Michael Marlon, you want to get it? It's like, who put them towels in the swimming pool?
The swimming pool. I remember him sending out Catherine to get pecan ice cream, and she comes back and he's with another.
I don't want you, Joe. Joe, I don't want you no more, Joe. You better get out of here, Joe. So pecan
Angela
ice cream.
Bassett's Catherine Jackson is just wiggling her voice. I know you help get these boys out of this house, but I ain't gonna
move
sit
that
on this
pillow.
anymore. Yeah, make yourself comfortable.
Yeah, get in
zen.
here. Yeah, it's a small couch. I don't
you
like
spoon
it.
You can.
No, I like
You
it.
get yourself
you like
comfortable,
it?
Joe.
I like it.
I'm
Do
gonna take
like
you to
it?
Barry Gordy's
That's not- I'm
house.
not
Do like
convinced. There you go.
Now
That movie, have you ever watched it before?
No.
Tori's only seen Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Ratatouille.
It's the only movie.
But that's
she's
what
seen.
inspired Michael to make his first hit.
Ratatouille.
They killed his pet. They killed
Yeah,
his mouse
that's
in his
true.
house.
He had a
His
rat.
daddy
named-
killed it.
Yeah, he had a rat
Really?
named
Why
Ben.
did you do
Why
it,
didn't you tell
Joseph?
me this?
You get this mouse out of here, boy. Black people have this thing where like we just regurgitate movies all the time, so we can't go nowhere. So I know John Q the back of my heart. I know Antoine Fisher in the back of my heart.
I was like that with Training Day the first time I saw it. I was like 13, and I made my whole personality Denzel's character. I'd like get newspapers on purpose and sit at a diner and read them.
Did you
look
actually-
annoyed when anyone was trying to talk to
And
me?
you enjoyed reading it?
I
Have
didn't
you actually
learn how to
absorbed
read
it, or
till I
you're
was,
like just
18.
doing the act of it?
You didn't learn how to read
I
until
didn't
you're
learn how
18.
to read till I was 18. I was
What
doing
type of-
wingdings.
Could you
up
read
until
as a
then.
child?
Took me a while,
When did you start reading?
like 10. I'm kidding.
I was about to say, this is
Jared
so
learned 10 different languages
No,
before
but
he was 4.
I actually vividly remember standing upstairs and hearing my parents talking about me, like saying like it's crazy, like we don't understand like why it's taking her so long. And I remember just standing at the top of the stairs being like, I'm stupid.
That has an effect on a kid. I remember my dad used to DJ like Special Olympics all the time, and like there'd be special athletes all around. And I wasn't a great student. And I remember one time I was like 9 or 10 years old, and like he didn't like use the word, but he said like, yeah, your mother and I think that you belong in the Special Olympics. He said that to me at like 9 years old because I was getting really bad grades. And he was like, we think, and like I remember like I'd be looking in the mirror thinking like, is it gonna happen to me? Do I belong with them?
Was he kidding?
No, he was dead serious. And then I never got my grades together up after that. And like revisionist history, now I'll talk to my dad and he's like, I was never that hard on you about your guys' grades, were you? And I was like, no, you never. I just thought I needed to be on a special bus for the last 6 years.
Man, they used to disrespect people who scored low. I remember they used to have the thing called EOG's end of year assessments or whatever. Yeah. And I got like maybe you're supposed to get a 3. I got a 2 in reading. And the next year they take you out of class and over the intercom. Oh, God. You need to come to EBA Cog Reading Academy. I'm like, oh, so embarrassing now. Everybody knew I couldn't have good comprehension skills. Sometimes when I would be reading, I'd just be lost. I'm like, what the freak am I reading?
Yeah.
I was like, I could read words, but you ever get lost? I was like, I don't know what
you got to go back and read it like 10 times. And
different
times.
Lose it in the middle highlight of the page. Stuff.
I hated when they had you read out loud in class. I'd always do the math on the sentence that it would be my turn, and I would read it ahead of time like 8 times so that when it got to me, I could actually read it, but I would still fuck it up.
Somebody go to the bathroom. Torey? Oh, I thought I had page 38. No, come back in.
There was a kid that bullied us in our class, like, and everybody was terrified of him, but he wasn't that smart, so anytime we would like go around the room and read, everybody would always pick on this kid to read, and like he couldn't ever really get words out. We'd be reading like Of Mice and Men, and it'd be like George and Lenny went to, and we'd all be laughing, and then it'd just be the constant feedback loop of us getting our ass kicked and read just for like 2 years. I mean, isn't it crazy that all 3 of us are talking about how we had a hard time reading and what do we do for a living but read in front of the class?
It's actually very common that like we're creative thinkers and that we're left brained, and that's
borderline artistic.
Usually I have dyslexia, and I think that's very common.
Oh,
for
I know you're a Christian.
Comics, yeah.
I don't know if I remember them telling me that I had 20/50 vision in my eye, and the next time I was just like, no, I don't. And then they go, well, you got 20/15. So I was like, did y'all really test me or anything else? But my mother, I was a very young child, and she didn't want to split me and my brother up, so I went to kindergarten early. So I was always the young kid in the classroom. So it was just like everything was like working hard, and everybody started going through their growth spurts. I had to do everything else. So I just remember just being like, man, this freaking test is so hard. And nobody was helping. They were just like, pick C. I'm like, that is not a good choice.
I remember that. They said if anything, it was pick C.
I remember one time I was like,
Jared, you scored a 33 on this.
I picked C like you said. In college, when I took an athlete course when I was trying to walk on, and next you know, this football player turns around and goes, every question C. And all the answer was just C. Every test. I was like, these are all the tests? Like, yeah, don't worry about it. You don't got to show up to class.
And he was like, no, what I really said was I have CTE. You didn't hear me correctly. I have CTE. Those standardized end-of-year tests were always rough. In Connecticut, they called them mastery tests. In Florida, they call them something else. I remember there was a Florida kid.
How old were you when you got to Florida?
So Florida's like our home base. We always come back to Florida. So North Carolina is where my dad is from. But like we left the country for like, we were gone for like 15 years.
Okay.
And then they dropped the charges, so they were able to come back.
When we came back, it was Tampa. So like my sister's like a gutter. She's a Florida chick. We're more like international people, but Florida's our base, and we've lived in Florida ever since then.
Gotcha.
So just like my family's all spread out. They're either in Georgia, Florida, Maryland.
Oh, right. I'm from Maryland, yeah.
Those were my people, so we're all spread around.
Gotcha.
But I just remember just being finally, like when we first got to Japan, that's when I finally figured out like my people. You know, we were all like
in Japan.
Yeah, we finally went to an Air Force base. Like a lot of people didn't live on the base, but I finally met other kids that parents would leave for years and everything else. So I felt like we're like X-Men. We finally met mutants where everybody understood each other. Like everybody was like into Dragon Ball Z. Everybody was cool. You didn't have to worry about being the new person because everybody welcomed you in because like, oh, his dad just moved here from such and such, or his dad is. Everyone worked together. So it was like the first time when you felt like a group of people. We all got in trouble together. And like I saw these people freaking every day of my life for the past 4 years. So I know like everything about them. So like everybody I met in Japan, all my friends were like really close. And everyone I met in the Netherlands were really close. Because like when you're an American in a different country, you hold on to what you know.
Yeah.
So that's why when we were bouncing from different countries, we learned different languages. But it's just like I got memories of me and my boy just hanging in Tokyo at 4 o'clock in the morning at Roppongi, trying to talk to girls, everything else. Those memories are.
How old were you?
How old were you living in Tokyo?
I was there from 12 to 15.
Okay.
Those are pretty formative years.
Yes.
So that was probably a good thing that you felt like you found your people at that age, at those core 3 years, right?
Those years.
Are you still friends with those people?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
All of them. We all have like once a day we'll text everything else. And we all went to the same church. We play football together. We wrestled together, everything else.
Great.
So we're all doing what we wanted to do, and everybody knew, like, oh, Jared does stand-up. So when they come to New York, they're like, oh, this is you doing what you freaking wanted to do.
I love
and then
that.
when I went to the Netherlands, it was just like, it was the first time I was out with the people. So there was the same base field, but there wasn't Air Force bases people lived in. So we all lived with, like, Dutch people.
Okay.
And that's when I learned, like, more about, like, culture. Like this Dutch dude, I remember my neighbor told me and my dad that Michael Jackson died, and we was like, what? And he was just like, no, he's gone. I was like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. And he goes, no more Thriller. Everybody's like, all right. we like went inside and got on Yahoo.
Then everybody understood.
I was like, Michael's dead, my brother, he's dead. I was like, what is? We're all sad. We're all sad. We're
a Dutch man ringing a bell. No more Thriller. Ding-a-ding-a-turkin.
I remember
the thrill is gone.
He came to my dad when Obama won. It's like, you guys did it. You guys did it. I was like, they're so
Every
racist.
time something black happens, they're like, we have to go see the water system.
Yeah, there's like, yeah, they did it. Yeah, we did it.
You guys can go home now.
But our school is an international school, so everybody went to school from different cultures. So like, we just met international women and stuff like that. So just like, I didn't really talk to like American chick for a while because I was like, I got used to this European lifestyle.
Yeah. Did you notice a difference when you started talking to American women versus European women?
Yeah, like in Europe, the women are very open. They're very forward about a lot of stuff.
Right.
And like in the Netherlands, prostitution's legal. So a lot of girls don't like you taking them out. They would take you out, or you do your way, I pay my way. We're going Dutch. It was like that type of feel. Yeah.
Same.
Is that how it's like in the Netherlands?
When I was there, it was amazing. And
you're like, boy, did I miss out.
this old Dutch dude told me the reason why they love black Americans so much because during the war, they were like, when the racism, they pushed all the black people to the front line. So when they saw black people, they knew they were free. And when they saw them, they saw these giant afros and afro picks. And the first thing they did, they started knocking down the chicks. They weren't used to white people being nice to them. So it's just all these war babies everywhere. Wow. So these beautiful black and freaking Moroccan swirly-eyed girls. And I'm just like, this is... So I was never intimidated when I got to America. I was just like, I've seen pretty girls all the time. I wasn't intimidated at all because I was like, come on, man. My ex-girlfriend, when I was 16, I took her my prom day. She was 22. And I remember everybody at prom
You
was
were
like,
16?
I was like, I was sitting there dapping people up. She was Dutch, Moroccan. She was Moroccan.
Wow.
And I remember I was like, just come to prom with me. And she's like, yeah. I was like, it's like the American thing. And she watched movies and she goes, yeah, I'll go. So we're sitting there and like me and this prom date and this grown woman just posed for
She
the
was
picture.
also your legal guardian. They had to get a notarized letter.
Was it like a one night only thing?
No, we dated for a while.
Oh wow.
We got to think black people. We look old, you know. They don't. She didn't know.
Right.
It was like,
That was like training for then your long relationship with the 65-year-old, right?
it wasn't that long, but it was some Florida
I
stuff.
love that joke.
Some Florida. The crazy thing was, when I'm in Florida, if I'm in anywhere in the Midwest, everybody yells out a number.
Yeah.
Just random dudes like, she was 55, I was 21. It's something about like the South and the Midwest where just like older women are like younger men to just talk to them, you know?
Yeah.
In New York, everybody's like embarrassed a little bit, but everyone has
Gives
stories.
me hope for my older days.
Yeah, you just got to give it like 40 years.
Yeah.
And then you'll be good to go.
Perfect.
I remember she didn't want to tell me her age. I found out through her passport. I saw her passport laying around. I was like, she's 65. I was
You're gonna be like, I saw your AARP card.
I was like, she's 65. I was like, man, she's old.
And you were how old?
Know?
I was 21.
21.
I was 21.
How long were you together?
It was just like a summer, just hanging out in the summer, stuff like that. Which is like, you know, you just summer flings and stuff like that. So every time I came in the summer,
that was probably her last one.
I don't know if she's still alive. I gotta look, but
she went out.
You gotta look. Where are you gonna go fact check that?
The
they're on
obituaries.
Facebook and stuff.
Oh, you're still friends on Facebook?
We were never friends on Facebook, but that's how we're just like, We met in a very unique situation, just like me, just making jokes and everything else, and she like laughed at the jokes, and we're doing like that. So that's what we met. Like a
meeting at bingo night
Wigglies.
was on his
You met
bingo
at
card.
Piggly Wiggly's?
Piggly Wigglies.
Nice.
You know what Piggly Wiggly is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a convenience store in the South, right?
Yeah. Imagine Dwayne Reed, but ghetto.
But it's Piggly and Wiggly.
And like really branded, right?
Yeah, everything. I think a lot of people Piggly Wiggly shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Pootie Tang line where Chris Rock was like, "Ain't nothing special about that belt, boy. I got it at Piggly Wiggly, 19 cents." My first experience down in Florida, because I went last month, and I thought of you. Because first of all, Jared is so universally loved, but he works so hard, and he stretches from what I've seen so far, from the coast up here to down in Florida. Because I went to Tampa, or I was in St. Petersburg, and the first person I see at the club, they're like, "You know Jared Waters?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I know Jared Waters." You've been doing it for so long. What made you get into, like, when did you start? When did you jump into stand-up? Like, when was it that you made the decision, like, I think I'm going to do it? Because I don't know anybody that does as many shows as you do. You inspire me all the time to do more shows, because, like, you'll post end of the year, I did 3,000 shows. I did 24 in a McDonald's bathroom in one night, and I'm doing a quinceañera at a Subway tomorrow.
Well, like I have, like, different origin stories, right? Like, I remember being in the Netherlands trying to do stand-up, and they wouldn't let me. I remember Tom Rhodes. He was like, I was very young, asking, "Can I do stand-up?" He goes, "Have you ever done stand-up before?" I was like, "No, but I watched so many movies and DVD, everything else." And he wouldn't let me do it. So he didn't really let me, but it was a book show. Now looking back on it, he was respectful. So when I went back to North Carolina, because like we're like Florida by the way of North Carolina, I go back to North Carolina college at 17, and that's when I started. But it wasn't stand-up like this. So it was just like I would host step shows and every opportunity, open mics and stuff like that. And then I got joined like a stand-up club where we do like stand-up on campus. But then when I got back to Florida, like I met this guy named Dean Napolitano. He's this dude from Orlando. And I remember he did a show for 7 people. My family was 6 of them. So my family's big. 6 of my family has 8 people. And he gets up and does an hour and kills. And and he has to talk to us. And my dad's quiet and stuff like that. And he kills. And then he goes, "What you guys do?" And then at the end, he goes, "Well, what does he do?" And my dad goes, "He's a comedian too." And he goes, "I promise he'll make you laugh forever." And then afterwards we stayed, and he kept emailing me. And he goes, "This is what you should do. This is how you develop time, everything else." And I'm like a young kid writing them. So I was like, all right, when I finish college, I got to go back to Florida, and I got to go to Orlando because that's where all the funny people are. And then my college guy next to me, like still like one of my best friends today, Steven, goes, "I'm from Brooklyn." I was like, "You know, there's stand-up in New York." He goes, "Doug, I'll get you a show." To this day, I don't know how he got it, but his sister knew John Lasseter.
Oh.
And this is when John Lasseter just won stand-up for diversity or stand-up NBC.
Oh, the NBC thing, yeah.
And it was, I forgot what year it was. I was like 19, super young. And he goes, "Come do the show. Come do 5 minutes." I was like, "Sure, yeah. And he goes, "Get your material flushed out." And it was the day of Thanksgiving. So I thought, in my mind, I'm thinking, like, it's about to be like the Apollo. I was like, man, it's about to be 3,000 people. I was like getting ready. I was like, 300 people. I was like getting ready to slap people. And then I got there.
Al Roker's going to interview me.
It's like 10 people in there. But then like it grew to like 50 though. Okay. But when he brought me on stage, I didn't know who he was introducing, because he goes, "This next round, he plays colleges all over the South. He's like, open for." I was like, I thought I was first. Yeah. Give it up for Jerry. So I get on stage, and before I did, I had like this slow voice of just like, hello. I was so nervous, so I was like saying my joke super, super slow. And then that was the first time in my life where I saw like funny people. John goes, so I didn't think the set was, like I felt like the comics in the back were like, they were yelling out the punchlines, because it was like, typical 19-year-old hooking up with chicks in college and stuff like that. And then John, I stayed the whole show, and John, like, he roasts me, but he goes, "Hey, to the kid with the soccer jersey in there, you only 19. He goes, "Stick with it. Just stick with it. I promise you it'll be all right." He goes, "I know you probably feeling something like now because you're seeing real professionals." He said, "But I promise you get every night. I promise you get a whole lot better." And then I just write him this. I send him a text on like my little Razor phone, and I'm like, "Hey man, I just want to say thank you." And he goes, "Come back tomorrow if you want some more time." So I go back to the next day, and the set was a little lot better. And then when I went to North Carolina, I just like, all right, now I know what comedy looks like. Yeah. I know what the pinnacle was, but I know I need to get to Florida somehow. Go back. I was at Flumhouse. I'm gonna go back home, get funnier, then go to New York. So that was always my thing. Go get funnier in Florida. And then when I got there, like me and Lady met, but I remember we went back to Tampa. And the club owner, his name is Bobby, but the general manager, he owns the clubs now, BT. He goes, look, man, you're clean, but you can't be saying period juice on stage. You can't be saying this college stuff. And he goes, these are working people. You're just talking about they can't relate to anything you're talking about. And I was like,
How old were you?
I was like 21, 22,
Okay.
23. So like when I turned 23 is when that's when I really put the gumbo on. 2013.
No more period juice.
No, I remember when I went to a comedy club and I learned everything else. I remember him just making me like, hey, go sit in the back. I remember he taught me when the club was like, when the headliner's there, what you do is instead of asking for a guest spot, help him sell his merchandise. And that's how you get a guest spot. Or telling like the comics coming into town, drive them around, take them with your car, drive them around. That's when you're going to develop memories and have bonds with them. So like I learned like the servitude part of stand-up, of being like a servant and just realizing that like the headliner and you, it's like a one-night stand. If it goes good, it goes good. If not, don't text him after that.
Yeah.
Been plenty of times thinking like this guy's going to change my life and realize like he does not care about me at all. He's just in Tampa for the time being and does not care.
Even when they do care. I remember I went on the road with somebody once, and we were in a town we'd never been to before. I was opening for them, and we were staying in hotel rooms right next to each other. And I had asked them once, like, hey, do you want to go have lunch this day? And they were like, yeah, we'll go do lunch at this time, whatever. And I go to the spot. Guy's not there. And I'm like, all right, maybe he slept in. It was a late night, whatever. Go upstairs. I go to the vending machine. He's at the vending machine grabbing a soda. And I'm like, hey, what's up, man? What's going on? And we talk for like 5 minutes. And he just goes back into his room. And I'm like helping him sell his merch after the show and all of this. And then just for nothing. I mean, to this day, we're still buds. But like he just wanted nothing to do with me at that thing. But I'm like 20. And I'm like, anything you could do, I can help you with, boss. Right away, boss. Extra, extra. Get your T-shirts right here. He's been telling these jokes since 1989. Ha ha.
It's a bond. Like when
Yeah.
freaking, I remember Bobby Kelly took me to the movie theater, and that was the coolest thing ever. He like shouted me out on his Facebook and like posted me on Twitter. Then he shouted me on the podcast. I'm like, this is freaking wild. And then after that, I realized he's a 48-year-old man. What is he gonna do? What are we talking about for real? He gave me the best dating advice. He goes, we're sitting in the car, and he goes, what type of car is this? Because he was like shocked. He's like, what are you, a kindergarten teacher? You got a car like this? And I
You
was
were like, actually.
I was like, it's a Toyota Camry. I'm driving around in Florida, and he goes, when are you going to move to New York? And I was like, I want to move in like a year or so. And he goes, you should wait to be this guy and be this guy before you move. And I was like, no, I think I'm just going to go. And he goes, well, when you go to New York, go to Queens, get an apartment for $300. And I was like, this isn't accurate. All the podcasts, I was like, I don't think any apartments are like $300. And then he goes, what about your girl? I was like, I'm going to come here first. He goes, listen, when I moved from Boston to New York, he goes, the girl in my dreams, he just pulls a picture of his wife and he's showing me. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. He's like showing me, like, look at that. It's the mother of my child. He goes, I left to go to New York and pursue stand-up. And she waited for me. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I was like, thank you.
That's your best dating. His best dating advice was, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen.
No, saying
No,
like you
it's to
gotta go
leave.
to New York.
Oh.
You gotta go. Saying like don't let anything hold you back. That's what it
How
was
do I
saying.
apply this to my
No,
own
you're
life?
right. That's
And then the
great
thing about it is like
God.
I had my iPhone 6 or something like that, and I forgot to stop recording, so I have like it all recorded on my phone. It's like all this advice. I'm just sitting like, dang, maybe I shouldn't be recording people without their knowledge. When I'm sitting
That
on the,
happens to me all the time. I'll get off stage and I'm walking home and then
I'm listening. I was like, why is this
see
an
the thing
hour?
And I'm like, it's been recording for 52 minutes. I gotta delete this before I ruin like 6 people's careers. Just saying, like, I'll get off stage and I'll be like, man, that crowd was a horrible bag of dicks, every single one of them. Then I'll start talking to other comics like, you see that one in the front row? Yeah. Oh, hope she gets cancer. I'm like,
And then you send.
and then I'm like, oh, I've been recording myself this whole time. I'm gonna end up tweeting it one day. It's
On
gonna be like
accident,
an
or
hour-long
just
file
to like let the people
of
know?
me, and I'm gonna bring down like 6 other comics that.
You're always recording stuff, and then I remember one time I was like, why is my lady on here? It's like, oh, we had a whole conversation when I got home.
The worst is like I had once where I got off stage and then I got yelled at, and the pipeline between getting off stage and getting yelled at, and I had that all recorded. And then after I get yelled at, you could hear like a 2-minute quiet, and then you hear just like 3 White Claws being opened right after that. And it was an interesting thing to listen to because I was trying to picture like what I looked like as it was going on. It's not something you're used to
Was
hearing.
this recent?
No, this was maybe this was like 2018.
Okay, I just wanted to understand.
Yeah,
it's always funny when you're recording a set and someone's next to the camera. This is before they had like Bluetooth mics, and you hear what they say about you. I had the club, the guy was right here. BT's like, "Come on, Jared, stop doing that stupid joke." I heard him say it like, I used to hear him all the time when I record. My camera be right there. He's like, he's freaking doing that Ric Flair, but I told him to stop that. I just hear him inside there yelling.
That happened once where Chris Murphy and Laurie Kilmartin were backstage, and I was on stage. It was like the first or second time I was doing my Michael Jackson bit, and and like the way it worked at Broadway was like they'd have the God mic in the back, and the audience mic, and the stage mic, and they thought they turned up the audience mic, but what they turned on was the God mic.
Oh no!
So the first like 10 minutes of my set, I hear two comics arguing with each other. They're like
in the
fighting,
back?
Yeah, like going at it. And like you're watching my tape, and I'm like, "Fuck you! This is the reason we broke up." It's like, that is not the reason we broke up. Like, hearing all this on the tape, and then like you hear the door open, and the booker's like, "Guys, take it outside, take it outside,
take it outside."
And then like it's settling in, and like you can like.
Is the audience? Can they hear this?
No, they don't hear shit.
Oh,
they
okay.
just like see me having a good set. And then I'm doing the Michael Jackson bit, and Laurie Kilmartin's like, "Wow, this is like a great bit. I haven't heard this angle before." And Chris Murphy was like, "Yeah, it was even better when Bill Burr did it at Madison Square Garden." He's like, "Bill Burr just fucks with, or Chris fucks with people like that all the time." And Laurie was like, "Really? Someone should say something to him about that." And Chris was like, No, we're letting him have it. He got hit in the head really hard a couple of weeks ago. And then like eventually he was like, "We're fucking with her." But I didn't know about any of that, and I'm watching the tape. And, like, the first 30 seconds of the sound was great, and then it dips off to the fight, and it dips, and I'm like, wow, that was weird. Then I hear Chris be like, "Yeah, he stole this from Bill Burr." And then Laurie's like, "Oh, we got to talk to him." And then he's like, "No, I didn't." But that was a fun little roller coaster.
You hear it all.
Fun when you get to hear that.
You hear the recording, the audio, you hear what people say. Sometimes when you hear the audio, you just hear random stuff in the back, forks clanging and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I can't get this. I can't submit this tape to a festival. But I remember it was probably like my lady when we were my wife now, but when we were dating, we left Orlando and we go back. I was doing like stand up in Orlando and go to Tampa. And I remember she calls me on the phone. She's like, "Do you even do stand up anymore?" And I was like, "What'd you say to me?" She's like, I don't know, hear about stand up. You never really talk about it like that. And I remember after that moment, I was like, I'll never stop. So I told myself 3 to 4 years in Tampa. And then I had a day for New York. And I went to go visit one of my good buddies, Cam. He did America's Got Talent, that dude. And we went up to New York together, and we did like all these open mics. And then we I remember we lied to get our way on Dangerfields. Remember, Quentin Green, right?
Yeah.
So this guy named Julius. His name
Julius Donay.
So Julius tells us, because one of our friends, she's smoking hot. She's cowgirl boots. And she's over there saying like, "My friends are from Tampa. Can they come to the show?" Goes, "Yeah, you sell these tickets, they can come to the show. And they can perform. I don't care." And they just lying to her to get her to the show.
Of course.
So she's telling us like, "We got you guys spots at Dangerfields." So being from Florida, we just get to the show early. And I was like, "Hey, man, we were performing tonight. Hey, is there anything we need to check in?" And Quentin goes, "Who said you performing? You ain't pass here." He goes, Julius don't run nothing here. What you mean you got a spot here?" And I was like, "Yeah, we said we got spots." Like, I don't.
Go ahead, keep going.
He said, "Y'all." I was like, "Where y'all from?" I was like, "We're from Florida. We got spots." Like, "Julius ain't the booker here. You got to get past here and do everything else." And I was like, "Well, it looks like nobody's here." He goes, "Well, come back again and see what happens." So we come back, and there's maybe 0 people in the crowd, and 7 comics have to do a set, and we had 5 people, and we go, "We'll come in and support the show, and everyone will buy stuff if you let me and my friend do stand-up." And he goes, that's how greedy they are for stand-up. He goes, "All right, well, one of y'all can get on stage. If one of y'all in front of the other one can do some time." So me and Cam, we flipped the coin. I went first.
Okay.
I went first. But he could have went first, too. He went first. And after that, I was like, everything started clicking in New York.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, all right. I came here in March to visit. And I was like, the next thing, I came end of August.
What year?
I came when Trump was elected.
Okay.
That was my first.
2016?
2016.
Okay.
It's going on
That's
my
when
6th
I moved
year.
here.
Same when Trump was, same month? When Trump was elected?
No, I moved here in July.
Yeah, I came a little afterwards. But I remember everyone was crying on the streets.
I remember that day
remember
waking
that,
up.
right? Everyone was crying on the streets, and I was like, and being from the South in general, I was like, man, I knew he was gonna win. I was like saying that at open mics. People were like, "What, you freaking Trump supporter?" I was like, "No, I just drove up this whole country. I just saw what was going on." And I remember Times Square, they had this giant feast because Hillary was supposed to win.
Party at Javits Center.
And they left the food on the street.
Yep.
and all these homeless people were gumming with plates and just eating food. Man, Donald Trump done gave us all this food. And they're eating all this food. They've left food everybody.
One of those homeless women grew up to be Candace Owens. No, I remember that day. I remember that when it started to change, because I was watching Colbert, and all the news pundits got scared around the same time. Around like 10 o'clock, everybody starts talking about like, okay, well, even if he wins here, and here, Hillary still has a chance in this little blue spot over here in Wisconsin, which could turn things around. And like around like 11:30, I was like, this is it. He got it. And then I fell asleep, and I remember like the TV was on, and I was having a dream that the radio was on and saying the announcement, and I woke up to
like you were in the
Blitzer.
60s.
Yeah, no, I was like in a car in the dream, and the radio was the TV, and it was just Wolf Blitzer just being like, we can now project that Donald Trump will become the 45th president of the United States. And then I remember the next day it was very rainy. It was very rainy day in
I remember
the city.
it really vividly.
Wasn't it a Friday, right, when he won? Or Saturday?
He won on a Tuesday. Wednesday was the day they declared it. That was the day
that's when Dave Chappelle, when they did like the SNL thing.
Yeah, he had he did SNL that Saturday where he was like, I'm going to give him a chance.
And everybody.
And then his special, he was like, whatever I said. I wish I didn't say that shit. But that was I remember that happening, and comedy shows sucked for like a week.
Yeah.
Because everybody was talking about it. Like, that was the one thing nobody wanted to talk about. And everybody, I did a show at Gotham that night, and it was horrible. Like, the only comic that I saw in that time period have a great set was Norm Macdonald, because he decided
You saw him?
Yeah, I saw him live at Caroline's once.
Wow.
He decided he was going to be a pro-Trump comic. Like just be, everyone else is anti. And his set was just like, that was the reset that I needed.
Yeah.
To where, because you were around all different kinds of people growing up. I'm sure you can understand. Like, you got your own beliefs and whatever. But when I'm on stage, I have more Trump people coming up to me after a show, if I'm doing Trump material, that like thank me for not making them feel stupid.
Like they are Trump supporters?
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are Trump supporters. I think they're just Republicans.
Yeah.
And I think that's just who represents the Republican Party. But being from the South, you grow up with people that don't have your same ideology. But I feel like with New York, it's like a bubble.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you get out of the bubble, Long Island does not look like that. Freaking the upper you go in Ithaca, they're on the right side. So it's just like these small pockets of like little cities is not what America looks like. Like half of the country feels that way, and the other half feels on the other way. So I felt like even as comics, when I seen comics, I used to do Long Island Live. I was at Governor's Comedy Club, and I remember when some of the city comics came up, I was like, as soon as you do that Trump material, it's gonna like go. But being from like the South, I understood how people are just still people. So even regardless how you feel, if you don't make them feel like an idiot, you can somehow swing them. And I feel like the Trump supporter, the right wing, they spend the most money.
Yeah.
They spend the most money. They give the best tips, and they like being made fun of. They like, you're making fun of them? Okay, cool. But you're not calling me an idiot or a doofus or anything else. Mm-hmm. But the ones who are like that are doofuses. And you don't got to call them out because they already will show you. Right. They know it. They know it. But some people are just rich, or some people are just Republicans,
Yeah, like when I do those, whenever I've hosted some of the contest shows at Gotham, like the funniest in finance are always some of the most fun ones to do, because those people are all super right-wing. They have shitloads of money, and they love being made fun of. It's like it's almost a correlation between when everything in your life is going great, you need someone to tell you what's wrong with you. That's why powerful men love being pegged, because it's...
Is that true?
Yes. Powerful dudes, men in power love being pegged. Prince... the one over there, the bald one, the one who got all of his dad's genes.
You talking about Prince Rogers? I was like,
Prince Rogers was doing the.
I was like, Prince.
This is like public knowledge.
I
should know this.
Yeah, there's a correlation
Is this Google?
here.
Public records.
Why you gotta fact check me on
like,
this?
Sorry,
powerful men love being
You
pegged.
really seem to know this.
A sex worker told me this.
Is this
once.
a personal preference of yours?
No, I'm not powerful. I hate being pegged. You give me the finger, but don't give me the finger, if you know what I mean. No, they like being pegged.
Jesus.
How many more times can I say it? Because they're
they're
so powerful and every
No comment.
What's that Prince name? The one
know.
like he got all of
Stop
Diana's genes.
it.
He got all of the Charles's genes.
Harry.
The one who married Meghan Markle.
Harry.
Harry
Redhead.
apparently likes being pegged.
Really?
do go on.
Is this like on the dark web or something?
I mean, I haven't seen videos of it. But
It's on a Reddit.
Yeah. It's on the OnlyFans I follow. No, I mean, there's a correlation there between rich people kind of want to be held accountable. I feel like the only place they can do it is at a comedy club, because even if somebody psychologically gets one over on them, it's a comic. And they're like so beneath them on the economic scale of life to where they feel okay with that shame.
It's like a comedy club is the only place where every animal or every person is the same for those 2 hours.
I like that.
Everybody relates to relationships. Wherever you relate to relationships.
Who's on the apps?
You relate to families. You know, when people talk about relationships, that's how you connect with people.
Yeah.
That's why young comedians have a hard time talking about relationships.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're young. I remember Matthew when he was 16 talking about like his relationship, and this someone's like, "Oh, this kid, 16." But then when he started talking about his life, and everybody's like, "Okay, that's where he finds it."
Yeah.
Me being a young comic, I was like, "Oh, I'm just talking about hooking up with you." It's like, this old guy can't relate to my thing, but just like you find ways to connect with people. You know, there's a way. You know, the people you work with are probably not your ideological views, everything else. But the reason why y'all get together because y'all work in the same environment.
Someone's paying you.
Someone's paying us to be there, and you find some ways to connect with everyone else. So I feel like stand-up is the only way that you have like everyone reach out. So you laugh at the same thing. You might look over like, oh, okay, we're definitely not. Yeah. But we're all laughing at this. We all have a mutual interest to laugh. In New York City is such a hard scene. It's like, you know, before the pandemic, there was still like 10,000 comics running around.
Yeah.
And everybody was at their specific clubs, but when everything shut down, it was just a bubble. Troy came to the park, you remember?
Yeah.
He came to the park show
twice. Once in October, and then once in January when you're on top of the snow.
Oh, on top.
There's like 3 feet of snow, and it's like ice and snow, like that weird. And it's like if you didn't move a certain way, we'd be able to stay on top of it. And like they shoveled out the benches, and I think there was 5 of us. That was like the stuff we did during the pandemic. It's like, you got a spot tonight? It's like, yeah, below 37 over at Jared's. I gotta dust off my bones. I don't know when this vaccine's coming out. I want to be ready. But like Jared was the king of those shows. You were doing that Astoria show in like that Acropolis, that little area like outside of 7-Eleven. There's like this little big Greek neighborhood, and they have this Thunderdome type thing. And I remember the first time I ever saw Jared, he was at that Astoria Park show, not the one in Astoria Park, that Acropolis thing. And he's just talking about everyone's like sitting like we're watching Julius Caesar, and Jared's holding court talking about Kobe and Thanos and Black Panther and everything. And I remember
Max's show Street Talk, yeah.
And there was all these things that were just going, like I was just walking by, going to see Brian Kim because he lived around the corner. And like I sort of stopped and I saw the show, and I'd like known who Jared was, but I didn't know him personally. And there was like this weird combination of stuff that happened where I was like, this is where we're at right now. Like I'm just watching this man like hold like a Malcolm X type speech. He's like,
Kobe
by any means necessary, we will do a spot. And that was inspiring. I always think about that because like even now that never you're everywhere, man.
Yeah, but I remember when we would like visit Broadway and like when Reggie got passed. I remember Reggie got passed for the pandemic. You gotta check out my dog Troy. He black too.
And then you see me, and you're like, where's Troy?
But it's like a thing of just knowing that. It's like a comfortability knowing that if anything happens, I've seen you do like 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and just having that control of knowing that someone who eats the checks on purpose. Like sometimes like, the check, I'm freaking out. But I only seen you and Jamie Roberts do that. Where I was like, don't worry. I was like, Troy just ate the whole checks. Like you worried about the checks, but I was like, what? He just ate half? He just ate 8 minutes of the check. You got the easy part of it.
Even when I text Jared, like whenever I'm hosting a show, I'm like, you're next. No rush. It's good. Don't worry about it. Like I don't, because I you know, it's you eat the whole tomato. I'm down for all of it. That's how you get to be a good comic.
But it's a way to bond too. Just like how much we have in common. Like Michael Jackson, and just like I was saying one time we were like yelling about. I forgot what we were yelling in the break room about. What were we yelling about? We were yelling about Kanye, Michael. Prince, we're yelling about Stevie Wonder. I was like, why are you yelling? I just yelled.
I know.
I was like, Jesus.
I was good and passionate, and which I've known to do from time to
Michael.
time. But Jared's also like the only person I can talk to about so much of that stuff. So when it starts flowing, it just pours out of me, and then I just get loud. And I'm not yelling. I'm just loud. And he never lets. He never makes me feel ashamed about it.
I just knew. I remember it was Julio. Grant, I remember saying like, man, this is the perfect time to beat somebody because everybody's gone. And you're going to see the same people over and over again. And I remember it was Chris Redd a lot, and it was Michael Che came. then I was like, man, I only got maybe 6 months to make a name for myself. Only 6.
Only if you give yourself 6.
No, I'm talking about the pandemic. I knew when it was. Right. I knew when it would get over, everyone would go back to their selected spots.
Yeah.
So if you had made that mark, eventually people will remember that thing.
Yeah.
So I remember just like looping around. I was like, good, because no comic could ever say I never seen him up before.
That's a smart way to do it.
Because all comics would be all like, oh, can you send me a tape? I'm like, you just saw me the other day.
Yeah.
But everything shut down. Everything shut down, and it was just like. People were looking in, and I remember this old comic goes, look, man, I know we used to make fun of y'all young comics every day, but look, I ain't going outside. He's like, I ain't going outside. Y'all got it. Y'all really love stand-up. And it was just
that much.
But it was like everyone kept leaving, and I was like, I'm not going back to Florida. I just come back home. I was like, no, I'm just going to stay out here and ride it out. But it was just like those moments of just like I wanted to be like inspiration for my class. I feel like a lot of comics are always like reaching up like this, trying to get the next deal. I was like, I want to bond with people who are around me. I want to inspire the people beneath me, around me, so I pull somebody up. So you remember when you get up, you can pull me up. So I was like, man. So I was like, let me see if I can get 600. Then I was like, dang, 660. Then I was like, all right, well, let me see if I can get 800. So now I'm on the pace to get 800.
800 this year?
Yeah.
Amazing.
What are you at now?
Like 7 something.
There we go, baby. You doing spots tonight?
Spots 3, 4 spots.
Do you keep track of your spots?
No.
I
didn't do it until March.
I set a goal of 300 this year, and I'm almost there.
Come on, dog.
300 shows, 2 laughs.
But we all have this bond now where it's just like it's comfortable. Like look, like even my family knows you guys and stuff like that. Like you see a lady on the street, like, hey, how are you? Hello, how are you? That's
what I'm saying. I go all the way down to Florida and people know Jared. Like it's the community. It's a community more than it's a competition.
Or tell them like, yo, go check out Troy. Yeah, he's funny. The tall light skinned boy. Yeah, he was good. The tourist. Yeah, the light skinned boy. He was funny. Yeah, I enjoyed him.
Oh shit. All right. Well, before we get out of here, anything you want to plug? You got any shows? Yes. I know your username is at Mr. Waters.
At Mr. Waters on everything. If you see a black dude on the horse, that's me. If you want to send any German mustard, feel free to send it to me.
Yes.
We have a show called Training Day Comedy Show. Happens every Wednesday in Astoria Park. A show called Comedy Night Live that happens right here on Orchard. Cut that out.
Whatever.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I've already said that.
We've done a good job at dancing around it.
Yeah.
Cut that.
Plug my address real quick.
No, my bad. My bad.
At least he caught it.
That was good.
We have a comedy Casa de Mezcal every Thursday. A show called Sunday Service at midnight, and the Comedy Commune every Sunday at 8 o'clock in Brooklyn.
That's a lot.
I remember when I didn't have shows, so that's why I always keep a couple. I always keep a couple just in case if anything else happens, I can always go back to my.
Well, I would like to just say that the comedy community is really lucky to have you.
Very kind.
You've always been really open about sharing feedback and advice and how you do things, and I love your birthday posts. Every time there's a comic that has a birthday, you always share something special about them, and it really is so genuine. So we're lucky to have you. Truly. Yeah.
Apes together.
Apes
strong.
Together strong.
To the other part.
We're stronger. Apes together strong, Caesar. Ape shall not kill ape. That's not beautiful.
Yeah.
I just watched that play. It was amazing. I know we got to go, but I love that play.
Well, I love you.
Jared Jackson.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Very sweet. Oh, I didn't even hug you. My bad.
Let me get in on some of this action.
And to Troy, as you like, I think it's motivating Troy watching Troy go to this. You know how the fan base is starting to connect to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I meet a lot of people who are disappointed that Troy's not on the show when they tell me, I thought Troy's going to be on the show. One dude walked up to me and was like, "Oh, you have his initials." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I think he's sick. I think he was happening last week." Yeah, I was like, "I think he's sick. I'm sorry. I think he's sick. I'm sorry."
Oh,
my favorite is when people call Broadway. They're like, "We're booking tickets to see Troy." I'm like, "Yeah, you and everybody else."
Yeah, catch me out. Yeah, 10, 11. Then catch me at the Greenwich at 1 a.m. At 1 a.m.
Yeah, you can either
at
catch
1
me in the
a.m.
middle of the night or in the middle of the day. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Waters.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We'll see you next week or Thursday, whenever this one comes out. You'll see it a couple days after.
Turbo.